My name is Emma Richardson. I'm 29. And the night my family threw me out of their West Hills mansion on Christmas Eve was the same night a barefoot stranger stepped out of the fog and rewrote everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and what it means to survive. It started 12 hours earlier. At 10:03 a.m., I was called into a glass conference room at the nonprofit where I'd spent 4 years trying to make myself useful. Communications, community outreach, anything that kept me close to the work. The director wouldn't meet my eyes when she slid the layoff packet across the table. "Restructuring," she said. "Nothing personal." I nodded, boxed my desk plant, and carried my entire career to my 12-year-old Subaru. By noon, I was pointing the car toward Portland, rehearsing the same line over and over. "Just a couple weeks, Mom. I just need a couple weeks." I wasn't asking for money, just a bed and time to breathe. When I pulled into the circular driveway around 5, the house looked like it had been dipped in magazine lighting. Warm windows, jazz drifting through cracked wood, guests in sequins and velvet moving through the foyer, a catering team in black button-downs setting crystal glasses in rows of 10. Everything perfect, everything curated, everything expensive. No one saw me at first. I stood there holding that stupid cardboard box, my plant, my notebooks, like a delivery driver without a signature. Then Victoria spotted me. My mother stood at the landing in a floor-length emerald dress, hair sculpted, pearls resting too comfortably on her collarbone. "Emma," she said, as if surprised to see her own daughter. "You couldn't have called?" I opened my mouth. Mom, I just lost my job. I didn't know where else." She cut me off with a tight smile, meant for guests, not children. "We're hosting tonight." Lila swirled into view next. 23, perfect blowout, perfect teeth, perfect life she never had to build. She lifted her phone immediately. "Oh my God, you really showed up," she whispered. "This is going to kill on TikTok." I ignored her and turned to my stepfather. "Charles, I just need to stay until I find something else. A couple weeks." Charles didn't even pretend to think about it. He held a glass of Merlot like it was a gavel. "Emma, we talked about this. You're too old to lean on us. It's time you stand on your own." "I do stand on my own," I said quietly. "I just lost my job today." He sipped, unimpressed. "All the more reason. And regarding the trust, it's been handled." Something fluttered in my chest. "What trust?" Charles set his glass down, finally meeting my eyes. "The Richardson Family Trust. $34 million. It's been transferred to Lila. Permanently. Signed, notarized, filed. You've always struggled with stability. Lila can manage it." I stared at him like he'd spoken another language. "You disinherited me." "It's not disinheritance," he said. "It's strategy." Lila chimed in, waving her manicured hand. "Don't be dramatic. It's not like you were ever going to use it." Victoria exhaled, annoyed by the entire scene. "Emma, sweetheart, please don't make a spectacle. You have 20 minutes to gather your things." 20 minutes. Not even enough time to process the sentence that had just detonated in my chest. The guests watched from behind champagne flutes as I walked upstairs to the childhood bedroom I apparently no longer had any legal ties to. I packed a valise, jeans, 2 sweaters, my laptop, toothbrush. That was it. The rest of my life didn't fit. When I came down, Lila was already recording. "And here she is," she narrated, "the prodigal sister with one sad little suitcase." Charles opened the front door himself. Wind rushed in, icy and sharp. He pointed outward like a bouncer. Victoria didn't look at me. Lila laughed. And just like that, one moment I was their daughter, the next I was a trespasser. The door shut behind me with a soft, expensive click. Snow drifted across the pavement. My breath came out in thin white ribbons. I walked until the warmth left my fingers, until the Christmas lights blurred into one long smear of color. A park bench waited under a crooked street lamp. I sat, hugging my valise against my knees, trying to understand how you can be someone's child for 29 years and then be nothing at all. That was when I heard it. The slow scrape of bare feet on concrete. The sound was so faint, I thought I imagined it. Just a soft, dragging scrape through the cold. Then a voice, thin and shaking. "Miss, do you know if any shelters still take women tonight?" I looked up. She stood a few feet away, silver hair whipped by the wind, shoulders hunched inside a threadbare cardigan that belonged to another century. Her feet were bare, purple, swollen, the skin stretched tight like it was fighting to stay alive. She swayed once, catching herself on the back of the bench. "I've been walking since Beaverton," she whispered. "Everywhere's full." I could barely feel my own fingers, but the sight of her feet snapped me out of my spiral. "Sit," I said quickly. "Please." She lowered herself beside me, keeping a polite inch of distance like she still worried about intruding. Her breath rattled. Frost clung to her lashes. I had nothing. No home, no money, no job, no future. But she had less. My hands moved before my brain caught up. I stood, shrugged off the long cashmere coat, the one thing keeping me warm, and wrapped it around her shoulders. She gasped softly as the heat cocooned her, hands trembling as she pulled the fabric close. "Child," her voice cracked, "why would you do that?" "Because you're freezing," I said, "and because no one deserves to be alone out here tonight." She lifted her face toward me, eyes bright with something I couldn't read. Not gratitude, something deeper, older. "People like you," she murmured, "are rarer than diamonds." She squeezed my hands once, then rose, moving with fragile determination. She stepped into the fog, her silhouette swallowed by silver mist. I sank back onto the bench, teeth chattering, arms wrapped around myself. The cold rushed in like a punishment. I tucked my hands under my chin and exhaled into the darkness, trying to convince my body to stay awake. Somewhere in the distance, a car door slammed. Then another, and another, and another. Within seconds, the quiet street filled with a low mechanical hum. Headlights cut through the fog in synchronized arcs. I blinked, heart hammering, as 17 identical black SUVs rolled down the narrow road like a presidential motorcade. They glided to a stop in a perfect crescent around the park. No sirens, no flashing lights, just silence, heavy, deliberate. The rear door of the middle SUV opened. A woman stepped out, the same woman, but not the one I'd just wrapped in my coat. Her hair was swept into a smooth, low bun, silver catching the street lamp like metal. A full-length camel coat cinched at her waist. Leather gloves, diamond studs glinting at her ears. Her posture straightened, sure of itself, as if the cold no longer touched her. I could only stare. She walked straight toward me, her heels whispering against the pavement. She stopped in front of the bench and offered a small, knowing smile. "Hello, Emma." My name in her mouth felt impossible. I hadn't told her. I hadn't told anyone. "I wanted to see what you'd do when no one was watching," she said softly. "Turns out, someone always is." Behind her, the SUVs idled in perfect stillness, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see a single face. I swallowed. "Who are you?" She extended a gloved hand. "Someone who knows exactly who you really are." I didn't move at first. My brain felt 3 steps behind my body. Then she added, "And I think it's time you came with me." Something in her tone, calm, certain, almost gentle, cut through the terror. My fingers hovered over hers. Before I could decide, a notification lit up my phone. A live stream. Lila, laughing into the camera, saying, "Let's see how long before Emma freezes out there." The woman glanced at the screen. Her expression hardened by a single degree. "Come, Emma," she said. "You've suffered enough for one night." Her hand waited. The fog thickened, and I reached for her. Kindness can be instinct, but being chosen for it, that takes something deeper. The woman's hand was warm through the leather glove as she helped me into the back seat of the middle SUV. The door shut with a soft, airtight thump, sealing out the cold and every piece of the life I'd just been shoved out of. The convoy pulled away in one fluid motion, 17 engines humming in perfect unison. I sat rigid, half shaking from cold, half from disbelief. The windows were tinted so dark they might as well have been shadows. Street lamps smeared into gold streaks as we climbed deeper into West Hills, past gated drives, old pines, winding roads that grew narrower and wealthier with each turn. The woman watched me quietly. "You gave away the only warm thing you had," she said. "Not as praise, but as fact. Most people guard what's left when the world takes everything. You didn't." "I didn't think," I admitted. "You didn't have to." The convoy curved around a final bend, and a stone estate rose from the hillside, like something carved out of old money and older history. Iron gates swung open without a sound. Lanterns lit a long drive, lined with evergreens. The mansion itself was all dark timber, leaded glass, and quiet confidence. The kind of place people whispered about but never saw. The SUV stopped beneath an archway. 2 staff members in charcoal coats opened the doors in perfect harmony, but the woman didn't let them help me. She offered her arm instead, steady and strangely reassuring. Inside, warmth hit me, like a physical thing. A fire roared in a stone hearth, tall enough to stand inside. Floor-to-ceiling windows opened onto a private lake, glazed with winter light. The entire space smelled faintly of cedar, and something floral I couldn't name. Only then did she speak her name. "I'm Eleanor Whitford." I blinked. "Whitford, as in, yes." A small, wry smile. "That, Whitford. Whitford Development, Whitford Housing Initiative, Whitford Foundation." Her name was everywhere in Oregon. Grants, buildings, charitable programs, but I had never imagined she was 70-something, sharp as ice, and capable of appearing barefoot on a freezing street. "I built the development firm with my late husband," she said, walking slowly through the great room. "When he passed, I took the company private and turned everything into a different kind of engine, one that moves money into people who need it, not those who already have too much." She paused near the window. "Every Christmas Eve, I spend the night as someone who has nothing. It's the only way to find the kind of heart you can't buy or teach." I stared at her, unsure how to respond. She motioned toward a leather sofa. "Sit, Emma." "How do you know my name?" I asked. "Because my team has been watching you for 2 days." My breath caught. "Watching me?" "From a respectful distance," she clarified. "For safety. To understand you." I pictured my motel, peeling paint, buzzing heater, the vending machine dinner, the stack of job applications on my cracked laptop. Shame prickled under my skin. "We saw you check in with cash," Eleanor continued. "We saw you eat cup noodles, apply to 47 jobs, and cry in the shower, but still get up and keep trying. You never once bragged about helping me. You didn't search my name. You didn't care who I was. That matters? My phone buzzed sharply. A voicemail. I glanced at the notification. Charles. I shouldn't have listened, but my thumb hit play anyway. His voice filled the room. Cold, clipped, furious. I see your circus online. If you smear our family name, Emma, I will destroy you legally. Do not test me. I flinched. Eleanor's expression cooled, the flame in the fireplace reflecting in her eyes. That, she said softly, is the voice of someone who mistakes control for love. I set the phone down, hands shaking harder now than they had in the cold. Eleanor walked to the mantel, then turned back to me with a steadiness that rooted me in place. Emma, she said, what if I told you I want you to stay here? Longer than tonight? My heart stuttered. What if I told you I want to train you, to run everything I've built when I'm gone? The fire popped, sending a shower of sparks upward. I could only breathe once before the floor under my life shifted again. Some families break your confidence. Others rebuild it into armor. I moved into the east wing of Eleanor's estate the next morning. My new bedroom was bigger than the entire downstairs of my mother's house. Vaulted ceilings, French doors, opening onto a rose garden. A fireplace I didn't have to light myself. But the comfort didn't soften the shock. I still jumped whenever someone knocked. I still woke expecting to hear Charles, calling me a burden. Trauma has a way of packing light and traveling with you. Eleanor didn't give me time to linger in it. At 5:59 a.m., sharp Grace, tall silver hair, exacting as a metronome, tapped my door twice. Running shoes. Now. By 6:00 a.m., I was jogging behind Eleanor's former Navy medic around the lake. Frost sparkled off the water like crushed glass. I tasted metal in my lungs before we reached the first mile marker. Don't stop, the trainer said. Leadership requires stamina. That became the theme of my days. By 7:30, I was in the sunroom with Eleanor, reviewing grant proposals, while she circled errors with red ink sharper than any blade. By 9:00, I was shadowing her through board meetings downtown, rooms full of people who wore power like cologne and expected to be agreed with. Eleanor never did. She asked questions that exposed weak arguments in seconds, and I scribbled notes so fast my wrist cramped. Afternoons belonged to donors. Old money, new money, tech money. People used to being thanked before they earned it. Eleanor taught me how to smile without surrendering, how to redirect without offending, how to read which requests were genuine and which were vanity, dressed as philanthropy. Evenings were for the community. She insisted I see the work with my own eyes. Domestic violence, shelters lit by flickering fluorescent bulbs, youth centers where kids did homework on folding tables, veterans' homes where men who had given everything were given almost nothing in return. I listened to their stories, wrote their needs in my notebook, and felt my chest tighten with something familiar, purpose, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Late nights were the hardest. Leadership workshops, case studies, policy manuals. Eleanor sat beside me with tea she never drank, correcting my language, pushing my thinking, challenging every assumption I didn't realize I'd inherited. You know communications, she said once, tapping a note of mine, but your compassion is the thing I can't teach. It's why you're here. I didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken about my heart, like it was an asset instead of a flaw. Word spread quietly in our small Portland community that I'd resurfaced in the orbit of a wealthy widow. My mother, Victoria, filled in the blanks herself. By the end of the week, she'd called half the church directory, claiming I had run off with an old woman's money and was being taken advantage of because she's too weak to stand on her own. The scandal was small, but sharp enough to sting. Grace showed me the messages. She wants to shame you back into line. she said. Ignore it. I did. Or I tried. A month passed like a blur. Muscle ache, notebooks full of scribbles, late-night strategy debates in Eleanor's library. I didn't notice how much I'd changed until one morning Eleanor slid a leather folder across the table. The words, stamped in gold, stopped me cold. 5-year apprenticeship. Potential successor. My throat tightened. Eleanor, I'm not. She raised a hand. Not a gift, Emma. A responsibility. I'm building something that must outlive me. And I won't hand it to someone who hasn't earned it. She held my gaze. The question is whether you want the work, not the title. Before I could answer, a shadow filled the doorway. Grace stepped in, face unreadable. Emma, your sister Lila and Brandon Croft are downstairs. My stomach dropped. They insist, she said quietly, that it's urgent. People who ignored you will always remember you when you become useful. I followed Grace down the staircase, each step tightening something in my chest I hadn't realized was loose. The great room below was warm with morning light, but the two figures waiting near the fireplace carried a different temperature entirely. Lila was dressed in a navy sheath dress, conservative, plain, painfully unlike her. Her hair pulled into a low ponytail, minimal makeup, no designer logos. Every choice said, "See, I'm humble now. I'm different." Brandon Croft stood beside her in a navy suit that still had the faint creases from the store hanger. He clutched a leather portfolio like he was ready to pitch an investor at any second. Emma, Lila breathed, stepping forward with a rehearsed tremble. We've been awful. I've been awful. I'm so sorry. Brandon nodded too quickly. We really appreciate you meeting with us. We know you're busy. I didn't sit. I didn't invite them to. Say what you came to say. Lila blinked, surprised I hadn't offered the emotional runway she expected. She shot a quick glance at Brandon before clasping her hands dramatically. We need help, she said. It's Dad and Mom. The house. There's a foreclosure notice. And Brandon's startup is days away from collapse. We need a bridge. Just enough to keep everything from falling apart. Brandon cleared his throat, stepping into pitch mode. We only need about $1.8 million. Investors are circling. This would buy us runway. We'll pay it back, obviously. Family first, right? Family first. The phrase hit like a bitter joke. I folded my arms. Where's the $34 million trust fund you took? Color drained from Lila's face. Her lower lip shook before she caught it between her teeth. Emma, we diversified. Into what? She swallowed. Crypto, NFTs, a couple angel deals Brandon's friends were running. Some purchases. She hesitated. We each bought a car. Lambo, Brandon muttered, almost too low to hear. I stared at them. You bought matching Lamborghinis. Lila's voice cracked. They were supposed to appreciate, okay? Everyone was doing it. And the Miami condo deposit was refundable. Well, it was supposed to be. Look, the market turned, the exchanges froze. The liquidity disappeared. I held up a hand. Stop. Before she could launch into another excuse, Grace entered silently from the hallway, carrying a thin black folder. She set it on the table between us and opened it to the first page. Screenshots, bank statements, transaction logs, 11 months of hemorrhaging money in every direction. 87% of the trust fund gone. Gone. Lila's breath hitched. How did you? Grace answered calmly. It leaked. A journalist asked questions. We did our own verification. Brandon's voice rose an octave. This isn't our fault. No one predicted the crash. Sequoia lost billions. Whole funds went under. I closed the folder gently, like it contained an obituary. You burned $34 million, I said. And now you're asking me to clean up the ashes. Lila's mask shattered. Her voice sharpened into the one I grew up with, entitled, slicing, cruel. "You psychopath," she screamed. "You owe us. We're family." Something in me stilled. A quietness I hadn't known was inside me settled into place. "No, Lila," I said. "You owe yourselves. And you haven't paid a single bill." She lunged forward, finger jabbing the air. "You think you're better than us because some old woman took pity on you? You think this place is yours?" Brandon grabbed her arm, panicked. "Lila, stop." I turned to the small panel built into the table, a silver button Eleanor had once tapped casually to summon tea. My hand didn't shake. "You're not getting a dime," I said. "Escort them out." 2 security officers appeared in seconds, stepping between us with practiced precision. Lila shrieked. Brandon pleaded. Neither touched me. As they were guided toward the door, Lila twisted back, mascara streaking, hair falling from its perfect ponytail. "You'll regret this, Emma. You'll regret every second." But the house swallowed her voice as the doors closed. The quiet that followed wasn't peaceful. It was righteous. The internet can smell karma before it happens. They didn't even make it home before the performance began. An hour after security escorted Lila and Brandon off the property, my phone buzzed with a notification. Her username, her face, her crocodile tears. She'd gone live, huddled in the passenger seat of Brandon's car, mascara smudged into a tragic watercolor. "My sister abandoned us," she sobbed into the camera. "We're losing everything. She slammed the door in our faces. She doesn't care about family. She doesn't care about anyone but herself." 30,000 viewers watched live. Sympathy exploded instantly. Heart emojis, prayers, hashtags. People who had never met us were already declaring me a monster. I almost closed the app. Almost. But then, right on cue, the internet did what the internet does best. 30 minutes later, the comments flipped like someone had thrown a switch. A user posted the Christmas Eve video. Lila laughing as Charles shoved my suitcase out the door. Me standing on the ice, in shock. Another posted a clip from high school. Lila dumping yogurt into my backpack in the cafeteria while 2 girls cheered. Someone else found the nanny who had looked after us for 6 years. She wrote a long comment about how Lila used to lock me outside in the rain as a joke. Receipts, screenshots, old TikToks, yearbook posts, everything. The tide turned. Wait, so she's the bully. Imagine tormenting your sister for decades, then crying for money. Emma didn't abandon you. You abandoned her first. Karma just clocked in early. Within hours, Lila's followers split in half. She deleted 3 videos. Brandon tried to issue a statement. It only made things worse. I set the phone down and sat back, a faint tremor moving through me. Not triumph, not joy, something quieter. A long-delayed exhale. But morning brought something darker. Grace knocked on my door, holding a printed news alert. Her face was grave. "Emma, you should sit." The headline hit like a punch. Pacific Ridge Capital collapses. $3.8 billion Ponzi scheme exposed. The article listed names of major investors, some local, some national. At the bottom, in the section labeled Mid-Level Accredited Investors, sat one I knew too well. Charles Whitmore, Portland. My stomach dropped. Grace continued softly. "Every remaining dollar your stepfather had. Retirement, mortgage refinance, Victoria's jewelry. He moved all of it into the fund 10 months ago. Why?" I whispered. "He thought the guaranteed 18% return would recover the losses from Lila and Brandon's spending. It was reckless, desperate, and it's all gone." I didn't speak. "He doesn't have the house anymore," Grace added. It was seized by the bank at sunrise. That afternoon, another update came through. Victoria, Charles, and Lila had moved into a 2-bedroom apartment above a nail salon in Gresham. Rent barely, affordable, no savings, no assets, no plan. I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not vengeance, just a strange, weightless emptiness. Then the email arrived. Subject line, just a small loan. From my mother, Emma. We're in a difficult situation. Just a small loan to get back on our feet would mean the world. Remember who raised you. We can discuss repayment later. Remember who raised you. The words throbbed behind my eyes like a bruise. The same woman who turned away while Charles disinherited me. The same mother who watched me walk into the cold without one objection. The same voice that told the church I'd run off with an old woman's money. I closed the email without replying. By early evening, I had just finished reviewing grant applications when I heard footsteps outside the library. Hurried, tense. Grace appeared in the doorway, her normally steady expression shaken. Emma, she hesitated. Your family is downstairs again. A silence stretched. This time, she said quietly, they look destroyed. The house fell utterly still around us. Forgiveness isn't a free pass. It's a boundary. I found them in the small conference room on the ground floor, a space used for intake meetings with struggling families, not fallen socialites. The fluorescent lights were unkind, carving hard shadows beneath their eyes. Charles sat hunched forward, shoulders collapsed, suit jacket 2 sizes too big, now that the confidence had drained out of him. Victoria looked older than I had ever seen her. Foundation unable to hide the puffiness around her eyes, hands twisting a cheap drugstore tissue until it tore. Lila didn't look like herself at all. Her hair was unstyled, her eyes swollen, her nails chipped. She sat with her arms wrapped around her ribs, like she was holding herself together by force. No one spoke at first. I closed the door behind me and walked to the opposite side of the glass table. They watched me with a kind of quiet desperation, the kind that comes only when there is nowhere lower to fall. Victoria was the first to break. Emma, she whispered, please, just listen. I pulled out a chair, but didn't sit. I'm listening. Charles swallowed hard, fingers shaking as he tried to smooth his hair. We're not asking for much, just a small restart fund, enough to get out of the apartment, enough to get back on our feet. A restart fund, as if 34 million hadn't already been set on fire, as if kicking me into the cold had been a minor misunderstanding. I kept my voice level. Choices have consequences. Victoria flinched as if I'd slapped her. Charles leaned forward, voice breaking. We made mistakes, terrible ones. But we're your family, Emma. You can't turn your back on us now. Why not? My tone was calm, not cruel. You turned your backs on me first. Lila's breath hitched. She lifted her head, tears brimming. We were wrong, okay? She snapped. We know that now. Isn't that enough? No, I said. It isn't. I reached into my folder and placed 3 business cards on the table, spreading them out so they had to look at them. Here's what I can give you, I said. The first card, Marcus Chen, Debt Recovery Specialist. The second, Financial Literacy Program, free 8-week course. The third, Mental Health Support Line, sliding scale therapist. This is what the foundation offers strangers who lost everything, I said. It's what I can offer you too. Silence expanded through the room, thick and electric. Charles stared at the cards for a long moment. His jaw quivered. Then something inside him broke. He pressed his palms to his eyes, shoulders shaking with a sob pulled from the deepest part of him. We failed you long before money, he choked out. I see that now. God, Emma, I'm sorry. Victoria's breath fell apart. She covered her mouth with both hands. For 1 second, I almost saw the mother I used to imagine she was, the one who'd hug me when I cried, tell me I mattered. But the ache passed, and the space where love should have been stayed hollow. Then Lila snapped. You want us to suffer, she screamed, slamming her hand on the table so hard the glass trembled. You're enjoying this. You think you're better than us because some old woman adopted you into her fairy tale life. Security appeared instantly at the door. A guard stepped between us as Lila lunged a second time, finger pointed like a weapon. You're heartless, she cried. You're punishing us. You are just like her. She jabbed a shaking hand toward Victoria. You think you're righteous, but you're nothing without us. Enough, I said quietly. The word cut through her like a blade. Lila froze mid-breath, eyes wild. I stood, smoothing the front of my sweater. There was nothing left to say. I walked to the door and pulled it open. The hallway behind me felt brighter than the room I was leaving. I'm done paying for your suffering, I said. Charles let out a broken sound. Victoria sobbed into her hands. Lila shook with fury, and the glass door clicked shut between us with a final, decisive seal. The sky over Portland was washed in a soft winter gold the morning the community gathered for the grand opening of Haven House. The project Eleanor and I had spent the last year fighting, building, refining. 4 stories of glass and timber rose above the courtyard, 200 permanent supportive apartments, an on-site clinic, classrooms, a rooftop garden that already smelled faintly of rosemary, despite the cold. Children chased each other between planter boxes while news cameras lined the sidewalk. Eleanor stood beside me in a winter white coat, steady as ever, her gloved hand resting lightly on her cane. Grace hovered at my other side, crisp and precise, though her expression softened when she looked at the families filtering in through the gates. The governor finished his speech. The crowd applauded, and then a microphone was placed in my hand. I stepped forward, pulse thudding. For one quiet moment, I let the sounds settle. Wind against the banners, kids laughing, the soft murmur of a future beginning. 1 year ago tonight, I said, I was standing outside my family's house with 1 suitcase and nowhere to go. I learned the hard way that sometimes the people who are supposed to catch you drop you instead. A ripple moved through the crowd, empathy layered with curiosity. But that same night, I also learned something else. Real family isn't DNA. Real family is the stranger who shows you kindness when you have nothing left. Real family is the hand that reaches for you without asking what you can give back. My eyes drifted toward the back of the plaza, where 3 familiar figures stood half hidden behind a pillar. Charles, in a worn coat, Victoria clutching a paper coffee cup, Lila, with her hair cut short, gaze fixed on the ground. They didn't move, they didn't wave, they simply watched. And that belief, I continued, is what built Haven House, a place where no one is disposable, where no one is left outside in the cold, where people can rebuild without shame, without fear, without having to earn the right to be seen. Applause rose, warm and full. When the ribbon was cut and the band started playing, I stepped down into the courtyard. Families pressed flowers into my hands, thanking me in voices thick with hope. A little girl tugged my sleeve and handed me a folded paper star. For you, she whispered, 'cause you made us a home. I knelt, so we were eye to eye. I'm glad you're here, I said. When I stood again, I passed within a few feet of my family. Charles's eyes glistened. Victoria reached slightly forward, then let her hand fall. Lila opened her mouth, but no sound came out. I kept walking. Not out of anger, not out of pride, but because some doors aren't meant to reopen. Some stories need distance to stay true. The entrance to Haven House slid open, warm light spilling across the pavement. I stepped inside, letting the glass close behind me, for the first time in a long time. The future felt like something I didn't have to earn through pain. It simply existed, open waiting, mine. I'd love to know where in the world this story found you. Drop a comment and tell me. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. Your support really helps me keep making better stories. Thanks for being here and listening.